Trump comes out with two huge announcements, two things that we would want and that we have been pushing for. We're going to discuss that on the wake of everything else going on. We're also going to talk about the dangers of what 2020 actually did. Was 2020 the actual cause of the situation in Butler with Trump and also the tragedy that happened with Charlie? We're going to discuss one common website everyone is going to, and somehow they get liberalized and turned into these little American terrorists. It's scary. We're going to talk about that and the dangers of having some kind of digital devices in the hands of our children, especially when there's no one else trying to take care of them. Also, a new study shows that you are 2.5 times more sick, especially if you were a child under 18, if you got one of these. We're going to discuss a new story that came out that said, just like the Amish and just like a lot of these other groups and like people like us that look at homeschooling and homesteading and staying away from the narrative of the world, somehow, did we get it right? We'll discuss this new story about how they pushed all this on your children and now 2.5 times higher to get sick because they took them. And then lastly, we're going to discuss how everybody's going to be in church tomorrow. Now, I wish that was the case. Everybody's going to see a revival. I wish that was the case. But I will say this, let's don't let Charlie's tragedy take away from the importance of what he stood for, faith. And there's been a lot of commentators, people like the Tim Pools. There's people all over Cernovich. All these people are saying church will be packed tomorrow because people are starting to wake up to see the dangers of this world. And guess what? There is only one hope, and that is Jesus. So let's dive into these stories today and my reaction to those. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Thank you so very much for being here today. We do have a new video coming out on Life with Colby Mack today. That is our vlog channel. Go check it out. I have not posted the last few days just with everything going on, but please go check out that channel. Remember to subscribe to it. That way you could be entered into the giveaway. We just sent off a shirt and some soaps to the winner of last month's drawing, which all it is you being subscribed to the channels and commenting and give us a thumbs up. You're entered into the giveaway. Now let's jump into the stories of the day. First, let's go to what Trump just said. President Donald Trump has directed the Food and Drug Administration to ramp up its effort to ensure that advertising of prescription drugs directed to consumers are transparent and accurate. So what he's doing is he's trying to get some of the bad players out of pharma ads. Now, we were hoping that him and RFK were pushing to get rid of all pharma ads. But I think what happened was they got massive pushback. Not actually massive pushback from just people like us or even Big Pharma. He got massive pushback from people like Fox News, all these cable news networks, the satellite television companies. Remember, us as streamers, we don't get paid unless we're doing some kind of advertising for things we believe in. However, cable news, satellite news, all those news sites and all those, for instance, Dish or Direct, without pharma, they wouldn't make it. Now, I wish they would all take them off. I agree. But I believe he got massive pushback from some of the bigger businesses, such as people like Fox News and some of the other news carriers. But what he has done is he's come out and stated that we will make sure that we're going to be more transparent. You know how they show all these healthy people at the very front and also at the very end, like, you make it, and it tells you all the stuff that you're getting and how dangerous it is. Well, to be honest with you, he's saying now we're going to clean that up a little bit. He's putting more regulations on them. Now, this is a good regulation that I do agree in. Now, another thing, what we don't want to admit, there's an article done that said for people who are on SSRIs, the medicines, he said this doctor stated that over the years when he prescribed it, what he realized is the people that actually took those things like the SSRIs that were supposed to take you and make you better and make you healthier and happier and not go through the motions of the world, it said that actually they were 2 times more willing to take their own life. They were willing to do that based on some of the medicine. Also, this new record came out that said 2.5 times. I'm going to read the exact article. This was from Zero Hedge. Researchers found that the children that did not get this are healthier than the ones who did. Listen to this. It says researchers from the largest healthcare system in Michigan found that the children that got this developed chronic health conditions a 2.5 times higher rate of likelihood of developing chronic health conditions. So we're saying this is here to help us, but what we did is we made a forever patient. See, here's where you have to look back at homesteaders, Amish, and communities like ours. Now, I'm not Amish, but I am a homesteader, and we have our own little clique to where we don't believe in all this. We're homeschoolers. We don't believe in putting stuff all on our food, putting stuff all on our lands, putting stuff all in our bodies, because we realize that actually is not biblical at all. And to be honest with you, for the last 2,000 to 3,000 years, it seems like every time we have innovations, they seem good, but the medicine side of it for the last 50 or 60 years has actually caused us for more harm. So what we do is we go back to the olden ways. So, okay, you know what? I'm going to eat more red meat. I'm going to make sure that I know my herbal remedies. I'm going to make sure that I'm taking care of my family these ways. Now, does that mean that we're against modern medicine? No. But what we're trying to show is even in this study, when you're dosing your children and your older parents with these kind of things, it's actually causing them for more harm than you thought. 2.5 times higher rate, 2.5 times higher rate, based on the numbers to show that they're going to have chronic medical conditions for a timely part of their life, if not the rest of their life. Think about that now. Think about that. That is absolutely insane. So I love the fact that Trump is trying to pull back on some of these companies and regulate them heavier, so that way people know what they're getting into. People know what kind of medicine they're taking. You know what's amazing? We know how dangerous it is for us, and we're still spraying our foods. Dr. Casey Means came out and said that 99.9% of our food in America has got sprays on it. Those same sprays are hooked to several pharma companies that help you treat those sprays or those cancers. We have to change the narrative, guys. We have to change what we're doing. Did you know only 1% of water on the earth is drinkable? 97% is pretty much taken up with every other body of water you can't drink, salt water. Another 2-point-something% is water that's fresh, but it's actually not good for you to drink. They say only 1%. So when you think about 99% of our food is tainted, 99% of our water can't be drank, then we have to really preserve the other 1%. This comes down to making sure that we're not putting junk all on it, putting junk all in us, and making sure that we are doing all we can to control this. Now, another thing that Trump just put out, this was even bigger for me. I want you to read, this is a huge statement that he made. Looking into Soros looks like Rico. Trump just had this quote and said that he is looking into all of these NGO groups and all these leftist groups that Soros helps fund, basically with government money, with tax-aided money. So basically, we're paying for all these riots, we're paying for all these things to happen to us and actually cause us for more problems across the world. We're funding a lot of that. So Trump is now putting his view on Soros. And he says, let's find ways that we can get him away from the government system that has embraced him for so long. This is breaking. Trump says he will launch an investigation of George Soros and over violent left-wing groups and protests. We're looking into Soros because I think the RICO case against him could be huge. After President Trump was on Fox and Friends after the situation with Kirk's tragedy, he says, we are going after Soros. Now, this is something that we've been pushing again for as conservatives, because we know that a lot of these things that are happening in these cities, a lot of these uprisings, a lot of these riots, a lot of these AGs, a lot of these liberal judges have all been put in with our money directed through Soros. So Trump made these two big comments, and I think these are major, major moves when it comes to, truthfully, the healthiness of our families, but more than that, the fact that we get right information and that our tax dollars are actually not used to be against us. Now, I want to move on to the situation about 2020. Why do I say 2020 could have been the worst thing? Not because of, this. That could be bad. But let's read the story, because this brings up the fact a little bit more about the tragedy that just took place, and also Butler. Let's listen to this. This is from Hunter Wise. It says, is Discord being used for radicalizing our youth with violence? Discord blew up in 2020 as a safe haven and online community during lockdowns. That's how it was used. However, what we've seen is people like this Robinson kid that did this tragedy on Charlie Kirk. Not only that, this goes back to some of the ties to Butler with Trump. Listen to this. It says, on Friday afternoon, chatter on X pointed out that Discord channels tied to Tyler, along with other radicalized youth, is starting to come up. The online platform is the same one used by the previous Butler situation with Trump, raising serious questions of why the radical left is using this and how they're using this platform to cause, and actually to make American terrorists with our children. Now, I go back to say a few things. What's the problem with our youth? We saw this kid, it seemed like he had everything, he had a great family, it seemed like, but what else did he have access to? Digital media. What else did he have access to? School systems, colleges. People laugh at us in our town because we are so unique. Like, I don't give any of my children cell phones that have internet connections. Aiden just got one because he is in college now. He's on online college, excuse me. So he's not even in college away from here because we didn't trust it. So he's in a private institution, literally where he can do his schooling in our home. His access is still minimalized because we told him he can no longer, even at 17, 18 years old, your mind is not ready for social media. Now, people think we're nuts, but did you know the people that made social media? Did you know the people that made iPhones? Did you know some of the biggest billionaires in the world? None of their children are allowed to have their own devices and social medias that they created. Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Apple's creator, he wouldn't allow his children to have it. Again, Bill Gates wouldn't allow his kids to have it. You think we're crazy. Actually, what we're seeing is the dangers of it. And Discord is just another form of that. Social media is dangerous. Can it be used for good? Yes, I'm talking to you on a YouTube platform right now. I'm talking to you through different things on Twitter. And if we wouldn't have Twitter, we wouldn't know some of the things that just went on in the tragedy of the last few weeks. Agreed. But for a mind that is not mature enough to handle that, and for a mind that is a kid, and for someone who is looking for help, then they find it in the wrong places. I go back to a few things. Things I want my children to know. We're going to be good stewards with what God gives us. So we know that comes down to our children too. So we're not going to allow our kids to be indoctrinated with not only school systems, but with digital forms of media. Because this here is more, that has more knowledge in it. The phones, the computers have more knowledge in it than anyone in the world. They could have the most danger dealing with inside your home. So we keep that away from our children. We have talk and text phones for our kids. That is it. Nothing else. No access, no Wi-Fi capabilities, no tracking capabilities. It is simply a talk and text phone like you would have had in the 90s. Now also, school systems. We've already told our children, college will be something very, very, very skeptical, and it will be online. It will be something that we look at as a family. You know what's so crazy? When I raise my children like this and we start this talk early, guess what happens? They don't think about eating junk food all the time. They don't think about spraying their food. They don't think about the things that some kids think about guilt and SSRIs. They don't think about social media and Facebook and Meta and Instagram. You know why? Because we didn't raise them that way. Now, I'm not hounding on any parent that is, but what we could learn from people like the Amish is they're not sick. They don't have chronic problems because they didn't take all of this. They don't have a lot of the people that's pulling away from who they are and causing major problems in their communities because they're not hooked into all this kind of stuff. Now, is technology bad? No, I'm talking to you on it right now. But what we realized is Butler's situation with Trump and Kirk, they were tied to this. 2020, it blew up. And this has become a platform. Reddit, Discord, all these very, very shady social media platforms have become a breeding ground for hatred. And that breeding ground for hatred took a kid who looked like he had the world on his shoulders, raised in a good family, and made him an assassin and a terrorist. That can still happen to our children if we are not guarding them and keeping them safe. Pay attention. The last story I want to bring up. If you watched everybody's kind of emotional plea over this last few days, it's been a kind of a topsy-turvy world lately. But one thing you've seen a lot of people say, some people who are not Christian, some people who have left the church, some people who are even liberal, they've all come out and said this impacted them in some way. London right now has got a 1 million man march going on in their streets for Charlie, but ultimately for Christ is King. They're literally shouting that out, Christ is King, because they realize the depravity of man. They realize that it almost may be too late in London and UK. So it's now time for them to stand up and make a change. Did you know the whole Nepal thing and the communist overthrow? You know what? Guess what happened? The Gen Zers got tired of it. They overthrew their government. Now, they did the wrong. I'm not saying go crazy, but I am saying there is something happening. And what I think what Charlie's life should represent is what he always said. Faith is how I want to be remembered. If we really want to change the world for Christ, and we really want something different, and we want to reawaken these children and these teens at colleges, we really want to change the world and make Democrats in urban places better, it's only because we're willing to serve God and be bold for Him. Cernovich came out and said that he believes that churches will be packed on Sunday. I hope they are, but I hope it's not just because they want to bring memory to Charlie. I hope that they actually are listening because they want truth. What Charlie had, they want. I want to see that. Kash Patel talked about, seeing Charlie in Valhalla. Basically, that's a heaven sense, pagan, Scandinavian style heaven. Let's not do that. Let's say we'll see you in heaven, but it's going to take you knowing Jesus. I hope our leaders get saved. We need changing. Tim Pool came out and said that it kind of scared him. All this scared him. And you saw Ben Shapiro did come back later on and say he's going to keep on doing the college things. But at first he said, we're going to cancel a lot of our events. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be safe. Absolutely. Make sure you are safe and make sure you're in a place of knowing that you're protected. But one thing I don't want us to miss is we need to find peace. And true peace comes from God. A lot of people are saying scared. When people tend to be scared or frantic, they tend to run to something that gives them hope. You know what gives us all hope? And what should give us all hope is Jesus. You know what would make this whole situation with Turning Point and Charlie worth every hard time he ever had and every hard time Turning Point's ever had, and the best situation that could come out of this tragedy is that we see a revival happen in God's name, but through the influence of Charlie Kirk. You're starting to see people wake up. And what I want them to do is wake up to go to church. There was 3 or 4 comments I read this morning. It said, I've not been to church in 15 years. I'm going to go Sunday. I saw another comment that said, I left the Mormon church 15 years ago, became an agnostic, but what this does is taught me that I should probably go back to church. Now, there are a lot of comments were saying, hey, why don't you go to a Christian church? Here's some Christian churches in our neighborhood. That's what we want to see. We need to see a movement. And yes, we can be bold, we can be angry, no doubt. I think there's a place for that, righteous anger. Jesus had it. Now it's time to be bold and stand up and find peace and hope in Christ. That's what I hope out of all this comes. We need to let these kids not be led to discord and get some kind of liberal ideology and this terrorist mentality. They need to be led to God. There's a report that says Gen Z could be one of the biggest momentums for the Christian movement in America. And they said a lot of that's to Charlie's thinking. We could see a conservative Christian movement back. And I'm hoping this starts revival through this tragedy that happened this weekend. Guys, let me know your thoughts on today's video. God bless.